The holiday season is finally here. The weather's colder, the seasonal depression is settling in, and with it comes yet another horrible Hallmark Christmas romance movie. Just ask your mom. She's probably watching one right now. For anyone that doesn't know, Hallmark is the oldest American greeting card company that has or had stores in malls across America. Then they got their own TV network in 2007 for all their shitty movies. So what is it about these movies? Why do they get created without fail every holiday season? Like, who is approving these ideas? Why do they all have so many Christmas trees? Some of these questions might forever be mysteries, but maybe we'll find some answers today while we dive into a recent release, Flipping for Christmas. As the good little housewife that I am, I like home improvement. As a kid, I thought HGTV was a nightmare to watch, but as a young adult, I like to think I'm young. It really keeps me going to see these before and afters of kitchen renovations. Flip or Flop became a must.
Design it however you want.
I'm going to, but why are you mad? I'm just voicing an
In fact, I had to stop going on TikTok because I could not stop watching people redo parts of their house. I don't care how bad it was. I couldn't stop watching it. But I digress. Flipping for Christmas follows your way above average modern day girl boss, Abbie, who runs her own company renovating and designing spaces. And this girl is insane. She has absolutely no work-life balance, and because of this, she lands a deal with a company called DevCore that builds luxury apartment complexes through gentrification?
Of course, gentrification sometimes comes at a cost.
I'm sorry, she's just okay with this?
Well, you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, right?
Girl, what are your values? This is the first thing we learn about her. So, we're just in for a ride here. And as a side note, her assistant, Jessica, is just awful. I hate her. She's an awful actor. She's an awful character. She's either supposed to be really bubbly or she's really, really milking this performance.
This is huge for us. What an awesome Christmas present. I love this time of year.
Anyway, Jessica is really annoying and she basically ruins the entire movie later on. One of the first things we see her do is she starts reminiscing about how much she loves Christmas and the Christmas spirit and spending time with your family and her parents right in front of Abbie, who is obviously very apprehensive about this holiday season because it's the first one since her mom passed away. And then when Jessica asks her if she wants to talk about it, Abbie says,
No, let's just focus on work.
Girl, just go to therapy. I promise you, it's okay to talk about your emotions. I feel like this should be something more present in this film, and it's really not touched on again at all. Meanwhile, her sister Claire, who I absolutely thought was her mom before we got information about her mom, invites her back to the small town that they live in because her husband's grandfather passed away and left the house in their name. I'm not sure why they skipped an entire generation of her husband's parents, but whatever. It's a Hallmark movie. We don't need that much lore, whatever. So they want to use Abbie's skills to flip the house and make a profit. And I'm not even sure if Abbie is getting paid for this. Her sister even makes her sleep on the couch. I guess this is supposed to show us that they're poor, but I think they're okay. I think they're fine. So they have dinner that night and her sister fails to establish that this handsome guy that Abbie ran into earlier is actually a co-beneficiary of this property. However, the husband does not fail to eyeball his sister-in-law while she's talking about how exhausted she is from work.
You handle that kind of workload, you must be exhausted.
Gross, dude. So we eventually find out that Beau wants wants to turn the property into a bed and breakfast.
When it's a bed and breakfast.
So tourists can come to the town and enjoy the serene small town cheer during the holidays. And he's convinced that this is going to help the community thrive. And I gotta say, this guy is an absolute Chad. I mean, he's a handyman. He's friends with every single person in town. He's got it all. Except for a girl. How convenient. So Abbie and Beau are tasked with renovating and redesigning the house so that they can figure out which route they want to go. Either let it become a bed and breakfast,
Guests at the B&B would...
or so Abbie's sister Claire can sell it and make a profit, thus helping her family because they keep talking about how poor she is, how much space they don't have in their house.
So we can get the profit to build an extension on this house, which we desperately need. We need to sell this home and give our family a house we can live in.
And this is a lot to unpack. On one side, we have this girl who is perfectly fine with gentrifying communities that wants to now help her family who is living paycheck to paycheck, which this is her response when her sister tells us this.
And we're living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh boy.
And on the other hand, we have our community-loving himbo, see what I did there, who for some reason can't support literal, actual members of his community by selfishly wanting to make the property a bed and breakfast.
As a B&B. Guests at the B&B.
Look, I don't get it. I don't get where these ideas are coming from. So after Beau is kind of a dick to her about her renovation plans because she likes to use technology and 3D models, whereas he's an old-fashioned guy and he likes to make hand-drawn sketches with pencil and paper.
Sorry, what was that? Wasn't listening.
Oh, okay.
They go to the same coffee shop that they met at, where she finds out that he can talk to kids. And we also find out that the barista thinks that he's something else.
He's something, isn't he?
When they leave the coffee shop this day, they pass by this big plot of land with a sign, and we learn that Abbie can't actually read.
That's gotta be like 75 acres of open land.
And this is where the tension starts in this movie. Not because Abbie can't read, but because of Jessica. Jessica takes this information and calls DevCore without Abbie even consenting to it, thus starting the conflict in the movie. Back at the property, Beau and Abbie disgustingly flirt while they're trying to figure out which side they want to take. The Airbnb,
Bed and breakfast.
or flip it, sell it for profit. Like, he paints her boob. You can't tell me that's not intentional. That's not just silly. He's an animal. So after they flirt and get paint on everything, they decide to go to lunch, and Abbie goes back to her sister's house to clean up, freshen up, change out of all the boob paint that she has on.
You look like you got into a paintball fight with Santa's elves and lost.
And we see another continuous thing that happens in this movie. We see Abbie and Claire's dad just rummage through all of these old Christmas decorations and stuff. And not once do we see either of his daughters try to help him, try to talk to him, like try to intervene, or, you know, be there as everyone in this family is processing their grief about the mother dying. Like, it's really sad. And at one point, Abbie's even looking at him through the window, like talking to herself about how lost she feels without her mom. And instead of, you know, reaching out to her family member who is also obviously grieving, she just shoves it aside and goes to lunch with Beau. Before she leaves, though, she does have a conversation with her sister where she talks about relaxing and letting go. And after watching a few of these movies, I realized that they have like one core theme or sentence that they stick by and the characters like evolve into. They're always very surface level topics that almost have nothing to do with like deeper conflicts that are happening throughout the film. Like, this one is focusing on Abbie's controlling tendencies, which I don't think we've really seen a lot of. We just kind of know that she's a workaholic and she shies away from any kind of emotion. It's very surface level topics. Like, I really doubt at this point we're even going to touch back on gentrification, but you know, Hallmark movies. So anyway, after lunch, Beau asks Abbie if she could lend a hand with a task he has to take care of, and he ends up taking her to a Christmas tree farm, and he brings some handcrafted ornaments to donate for this tree that people can decorate by signing names of their loved ones who passed away. And I think the sentiment is really sweet. I love that concept, I'll be honest, but I gotta say that she is way too impressed with his ability to slice a piece of wood. Get a grip, Abbie. If you left your 3D home models for 2 seconds, you would know that this is the bare minimum. So they have another disgusting flirting scene, and they finally find the tree that they want to chop down. And of course, they have to throw in a close proximity wood cutting scene. And honestly, I don't know if I've just been reading too much smut lately, but there is a lot of sexual tension in this scene.
Back and forth. It's easier and easier, okay?
So I think that answers one of the questions about why these movies exist. So they keep flirting like they're in 6th grade, and I'm really disturbed, but also deep in my soul, I'm kind of rooting for them at this point. And when they finally stop making googly eyes at each other, Abbie takes a call from the DevCore CEO to reveal that she actually doesn't want to gentrify areas that she cares about.
And now Antonio wants to buy the lot and gentrify the area. It's just so...
The other apartment complex, yeah, let's do it. You know, keep that contract going while you can. But this 90-acre plot of land, yeah, she's got a problem with it now. And it's all because of Jessica. Then the following morning, Abbie stops by Beau's workshop where he finally starts to open up about his past marriage, about his dad leaving him as a kid, about how close he was with Frank, who is Abbie's sister's husband's grandfather. And I am just really confused why this guy wants to make this house a bed and breakfast instead of helping Frank's actual grandson.
Except now it's a bed and breakfast.
I don't understand it. And then he has the audacity to say that a Tumblr quote was one of Frank's favorite things to say.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Back at her sister's house, Abbie is finally coming to terms that she has a conscience, and she talks to her dad about her girl boss work-life balance. And her dad finally starts to talk about her mom and encourages her to not bulldoze through her life and to not work all the time and to enjoy and appreciate things that are around her right now. Again, it's a very simple value that this Hallmark movie revolves around that is different than the one that her sister said, but doesn't touch on dealing with your emotions, processing grief, what kind of values you hold as a person in power that can make decisions that uproot other people's lives. You know, it's simple things. It's a Hallmark movie. So now, back at the property that they're renovating, Beau has almost convinced her that Frank wants to make this house a bed and breakfast.
Opening a B&B for visitors to do the same is exactly what Frank would have wanted.
Which, this just gets me thinking that Frank must have hated his grandson, because it sounds like Beau knew him better than anyone else in his family, and I really can't tell if Beau is just trying to manipulate her into getting his way with the house, or if Frank really did think that the town would thrive off of a new bed and breakfast.
A sale.
B&B.
At this point, I feel like Frank should have left instructions in his will. Like, honestly, is this a common thing that happens where people leave their entire house to family members and a random friend? I can't imagine that this is very common. So they wrap up for the day. Beau invites Abbie out for dinner, and she says,
And I have a strict no ho-ho hot dogs before bed policy.
I'm sorry, what the fuck does that mean? His dick? Were you going to eat his dick for dinner? The following morning, she convinces the mayor to reconsider the DevCore proposal for the empty plot of land by revealing that DevCore will gentrify the town.
Whoa, who said anything about gentrification?
And then she stops by the house with her sister to find that Beau has decorated the entire house himself overnight for some reason. I'm not sure why. I don't even think they established why he did this. But he implemented her design choices, which shows him as a man who listens. Then that night they agree to go to dinner together, but they end up stargazing in the back of a truck on the 90-acre plot of land. And these two very attractive people look like they want to eat each other. I mean, I feel like surprisingly, there is a lot of chemistry between these two actors. And they almost kiss until she gets a phone call, which of course our anti-tech guy hates. That's from the DevCore CEO informing her that he offered more money to the mayor, who ended up taking her offer regardless of their conversation about gentrification earlier that day. Who is voting for this guy? And then Abbie explains everything very reasonably to Beau about how she didn't mean for any of this to happen and it was just an accident and her stupid assistant Jessica fucked everything up. And oh my God, Beau jumps at the opportunity to become a victim in this scenario.
No, you used me. You don't care what this place means to me. I finally start to open up and have feelings for someone. And
I almost threw up watching this. It's insane. He's insane. Girl, leave. Go back to the city. You know what? It turns out that he doesn't listen. He just decorates houses in the hopes of giving his ho-ho hot dog out. So now, back at Claire's house, Claire is urging Abbie to give Beau another chance because he crafted a closet door in their house. So she goes back to Beau's workshop and confesses that she doesn't ever want to work again. She just wants to be his little Santa helper. No, I'm just kidding. But she does realize that she doesn't want to work so hard for the rest of her life or negatively impact communities through her work. Queen shit. Good job. She's evolving as a character. It's great. We love to see it. I don't think he really cares much in this scene, which is actually really sad because Abbie just decided to change her entire life for this man. But regardless, she rushes to the mayor's office to stop the deal with some legally blonde finesse.
What, like it's hard?
And proposes a new idea to the mayor to keep this small town from expanding. She goes back to Beau's workshop again to tell him the good news and to admit that she actually does want it to be a bed and breakfast.
A bed and breakfast.
Which is insane. And at this point, I was gonna lose my shit if they didn't come up with some kind of solution for Claire and her family. Like the entire point of this movie was to get Abbie there to help them make money to expand their house because they have 2 kids and their dad's living with them and Abbie has to sleep on the couch and they're just so poor. But they did. It's fine. Whatever. And I don't think Beau gets any character development in this movie. It turns out that Abbie was just wrong about everything. Everything was her fault. She shouldn't have been a girl boss. She shouldn't have been wanting to flip a house. She was wrong. She had to end up changing everything. So I don't know. Is that the lesson in this movie? Is that the lesson in every Hallmark movie? Put us in our place, you know what I mean? Change everything about yourself to appease this small town handyman. And then we get a scene where her dad dresses up like Santa Claus, I guess to symbolize that he's worked through his grief and is now ready to celebrate Christmas without his wife. Again, we don't really get too much context on that part of the movie, but a really silly thing happens in this scene where her dad goes to plug in the extension cord and Abbie looks like she would have never guessed what was gonna happen in this scene. Oh, I don't know what she expected here. And then the following day, on Christmas morning, Abbie and Beau share some little gifts and finally kiss under mistletoe. And I think they look really strange in this scene. I know I said before that these actors seem to have some sexual tension between them really convincingly. It's not here in this scene.
Rules are rules.
And I have to wonder if this was the first scene that they shot, perhaps, which would be really weird. But it just seems very awkward to me. Like, their chemistry is not there in this scene. I don't know if I'm just thinking way too hard about this Hallmark movie. But if we look past this and think of this as like their happily ever after, then maybe they do get the ho-ho hot dog tonight. So there we have it. Flipping for Christmas. I feel like it actually should have been called Bed and Breakfast for Christmas because they didn't actually flip the house. Anyway, these movies are so ridiculous. They're predictable, they're cheesy, and it makes me want to gouge my eyes out. I'm not gonna say I understand the appeal, but I am curious how many people actually watch these movies unironically. I mean, absolutely, if you're looking for something dumb to watch, you should take some time this season and put on one of these movies. I might watch a few more, definitely to make fun of them. Yeah. Anyway, happy holidays. We'll see you in the next one.
As a B&B. Guests at the B&B with bed and breakfast. Guests at the B&B, except now it's a bed and breakfast.